in the spirit of transparency and openness, and I will repeat this when others show up, in particular, the other candidate that I'm pretty sure is going to join us, that if we I don't know what I'm going to say. I have previously shared the recordings on a closed Southeast CPC playlist on YouTube. So it's not available to the general public. I personally do not have any reservations about sharing them with the public, but it's really up to the participants on how they feel about it. There might be a time where we allow community members to observe our meetings between the monthly meetings, or simply view them afterwards. There are things that, and I will probably repeat this too when others show up, there are things that I don't see we need to conduct in the public monthly meeting. If we are going to, for example, talk about the review and revisions to the guidelines, sure, it'd be nice to tell the public that we have guidelines. Here's a link to the draft of the revision, version 11, and we reviewed it and didn't have any reservations, and we voted to approve it from the Southeast CPC, for example, or a review of past minutes. I think that our time with the public might be better served letting them hear from the commander on things that they feel they need to share, and to allow the public to have conversation with us and APD. So, hey, Angelo, tell us about today. I saw your post.
So we got members for the youth. We're excited. So yeah, so it was a nice place. Like they do like youth connection. They do like youth jobs, volunteers. I got quite volunteers to want to join from 14 and up. So yeah, so it's a really good start.
Well, I'm about a day or two behind my plan, which was to touch base with you. I'm going to make that the focus of the Southeast CPC input to the commander's monthly newsletter. So,
Okay. I did talk to the commander. I called him on the phone because I saw him like on through Instagram on the Youth Community Policing Council Instagram, and we're like, oh, like that's cool. Like he's doing outreach for the youth. So I called him saying like, hey, commander, I got accepted for the Youth Community Policing Council. He's like, that's good. He's like, he was asking you want me to have a conversation with him, see how we can work on the youth. I said, yeah, so I'm going to meet with him on the February 13th at 2:00.
okay. Aha. So let's see here. Debhra, do you want to let's see here. I could rename you or you could rename yourself. Do you want me to try it?
Sure.
Here we go. Sandoval, A-L, right?
Yep.
And Angelo, when you see this, it is not a typo, is it?
No.
I'm asking Debhra.
No, it's not a typo. That's a birth certificate error that I've had forever.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my grandmother, they got her birthday wrong, and so people say that her birthday is on the 9th instead of the 10th
Oh,
for her longest time.
those nurses, sometimes they just don't pay attention, but that's okay. It's a different name. Yeah. So, but unfortunately your grandma's a little bit older, a day early.
Yeah.
That much smarter, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Being at 6 o'clock, we'll wait a little bit.
I'll be right back.
Sure. I'd really like to have the official quorum, which would be 4 of our 8 current members, before we get started. And I won't repeat what I had said before you showed up, Ernest and Ron. I'll wait till perhaps others do in a few minutes. But I thought it was worth sharing with folks. Aha, so Ron, you initially weren't thinking you could be available tonight, right?
No, it worked out so I could be here.
Aha, what did you do? Eat early?
No, I haven't eaten yet.
Oh, well, I'm hoping that we'll get going here in a couple minutes and not drag anything out. I personally have spoken with both Debhra and Ernest. And do you want me to change the name on my email list to Ernest?
That would be fine with me, however you want to do it.
Well, no, however you want to do it.
Ernest McMillan is how I prefer to be called, if I have to be called something.
Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
Angela,
Yeah.
I was gonna tell you,
Hey, Angelo. Hi.
At least it's not the cat jumping up on the keyboard.
I didn't know you were a medium, but
Yeah.
okay. I put 6 rolls of tissue in there for you. Okay,
Okay.
so you could have those,
So anything, Ernest, do you prefer Ernest or Ernie?
Ernest is good.
Ernest is good, okay. Because I prefer Mike over Michael. Michael, you get right back in here.
Yes, Mom.
What's that?
Yes, Mom.
Yeah, it was only my mom, and I had a girlfriend at one time who was Mormon, and she always called me Michael.
Mm.
So I suppose
Well,
what
I have to tell you, when I'm called Ronald, it usually means I'm in trouble. I've done something that I shouldn't have done.
Okay. I'm going to text a couple of people and see if they're going to actually show up.
So for the sign up sheet, I got 49 petition for the Youth Community Policing Council.
Good.
Yeah,
Way to go.
thanks.
Okay, so Archie said, I thought he said he was going to join us. We got Angelo. I've got Ron. Two. What I'll do is I'll send these text messages. One, two, three. I suppose I could.
So while Mike's doing that, can you believe it's still 52 degrees outside?
No, I can't believe that.
Hooray! Terrific.
Oh, goodness. I'm missing somebody in my contacts suddenly. Okay. Okay, here we go. So let's see. Susie says she'll be on in a second. Well, it looks like, I think that's her. Rohin, I haven't heard back from. Chris thought it was tomorrow. And I haven't heard from Tyler yet. But 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I think what we'll do is go ahead and get started. We do have a quorum according to our guidelines. 50% of 88 is 4. So Angelo, Mike, Ron, and Susie. And what I would propose is to press on and do as I had mentioned when Debhra had just signed on, and Ernest, you hadn't heard this, that the recording would go to a closed private playlist on YouTube so that Rohin, Tyler, and Chris, if they don't make it, are able to view the discussion that we have with you. And oops, there we go, 5. So let's let Rohin get hooked up here. So, alrighty, I will ask both Debhra and Ernest to share their thoughts about their interest in joining us. I presume that you looked over the questions that were in that survey, the form, and those are things that folks typically ask when we talk to community members who are interested in serving on the council. So I'll leave it to either of you to start, maybe talk about how did you come to know about the CPCs?
I can start. I discovered this, I think it was on Nextdoor that I saw it advertised. And when I started looking at what you guys did, I thought that's something that I would be interested in doing. And because I've worked in the law enforcement for about 28 years. And I thought I know both sides of the law enforcement side and the civilian side. I thought maybe I could offer something to the table to help with Albuquerque, because I see that the crime, the homelessness, and I concerned about the citizens who are unhappy with some of the service, even though I have seen improvements from the time that I moved here to now. I see a lot more visual with the officers, and I see a lot more transparency. So I think that Albuquerque PD is on the right road, but definitely I think these committees have been a big part of that change.
And for me, my name is Ernest McMillan. I'm new to Albuquerque. I've been here since June of last year, so about a year and a half. And I've just been exploring ways to get more connected to the community. My birthplace is Dallas, Texas, and I spent most of my life in Texas, either in Dallas or Houston. And I guess it's part of my family tradition or my DNA even to be involved in the community. My father's a pastor, and my mother was a precinct judge and active in the community civics clubs and societies. And so just kind of a natural thing for me to based on my experience and based on my past, to kind of gravitate to be more involved in the community and to find out how I can be more integrated with the things that are happening there. How can I be more involved and hopefully helpful to strengthening the community in any way possible? I spent most of my life being a counselor, either in drug counseling or civil rights activities, and with youth development programs. I founded a youth program in 1984 in Houston. It's still thriving today. It's called Fifth Ward Enrichment Program. Today it's called the Urban Enrichment Program. It's kind of expanded. And so just plugging around, trying to find organizations. I ran into some progressive and meaningful organizations. It just didn't really work out for. I'm not going to mention any names, but so I stumbled upon the Community Police Council. I guess I was intrigued by what it was and what it meant to be, and so I was just the inclusion of community police in one breath. It was intriguing to me because I've already seen more of a separation or isolation between police and community. So just hoping that the effort would be something that's akin to bringing people to get more involved in community affairs. It's something that magnetized me to check into and talk with Mike and kind of reinforce that theory, that sense of really trying to be inclusive, trying to bring diverse places together and help form a stronger community. It's just kind of resonated with me. So that's why I'm here.
So Ernest, I want to ask you, and I'm going to ask this of Debhra also. How did you learn about the Community Policing Council?
I'm really not exactly clear specifically I found about it, just browsing around, scanning neighborhoods, talking with people, and the name popped up. And so that's when I started investigating. But it wasn't any particular specific source that I can recall. It's just a matter of searching and browsing and putting my feelers out and getting feedback.
Sure. Deborah?
I believe it was either Nextdoor or Facebook. There was this requesting if you want to be part of this committee. So when I
Yeah.
started doing the research, I thought, this is interesting, because when I first moved here about a year and a half, I was shocked at the homelessness, the crime, and the lack of trust with EPD. So I started doing some research, and I saw the DOJ lawsuit and all this kind of things. And I saw where this committee was required. And I thought it was interesting that citizens were actually getting involved. And I like that thought of having both sides at the table. So I thought, with my experience, maybe I could offer the law enforcement side and then the civilian side. And I know how things work, and I want everyone to come together. And I believe there should be more diversity, and there needs to be more transparency. You can't hold everything to the vest. And in our agency, we learned that you have to talk to people. You have to do community policing. And even when Mike was nice enough to give me some signs about don't drive fast to the area, enforced area, I was surprised how receptive some of my neighbors were. And I told them about the committee and how, if they have any concerns, that Mike was willing to come and we could have a meeting at my house, that kind of thing, to kind of get them to come around. So that's how I got more and more interested in this.
Thank you.
I have a question for Ernest and Debhra.
Okay.
So I started a youth community policing council. It's a brand new council. How will you guys get youth like let's say if we have a meeting with the Southeast, how will you guys intrigue for the youth to join the community policing council?
I think it's a combination of ways to reach out to the youth. I've seen some effective models in Houston. One that I was a part of is reaching out to parents who had concerns about their children and offering them some sense of constructive alternatives for them to get involved in and point them in those directions. And so, and then once the youth themselves got involved, it's a long period of listening and assessing and brainstorming together and getting their ideas and identifying what their priorities and felt needs were, and then just kind of going from there. I'm really at a loss, particularly for Albuquerque. I work 8 hours a day as a security officer. I'm not in touch with parents or schools or agencies so much that are directly involved with youth. But I've been relying on Mike to kind of point me into some directions, and it seems like there's a potential for being involved with youth organizations. I was a little disappointed with attitude of big brothers, big sister. I think the one-on-one thing is good, but there's so many kids in need. There needs to be more of a group sense of mentoring and of engaging them in cultural, alternative activity, social building kind of things, and help them and support them on their goals and their dreams. And so I'm looking for opportunities like that. I think the model I work with in Houston is a good model that I can share with you about how we were able to build youth. It was a neighborhood that was called the Bloody Fifth Ward because it was so dangerous. And this is during the crack epidemic in the 80s. We were able to, I went to 20 funerals in less than 10 years of youth between the ages of 10 and 21 years of age. So I think what I've learned from that, some of the takeaways I have is that there's so much potential in youth to be, direct their energies in a positive direction. They just need a an ear to listen and a hand to help them to find a way and to be upfront with them and not try to hide discount their thoughts and their feelings. I don't know if I answered the question, but I think a general approach is being open-minded and available and listening are the main tools that we can use to build more bridges for youth.
And you gave a key word there. You used the word support. And that's really important.
Thank you.
Okay, I think it's great because there needs to be direction and support, as Ernest said, for our young people. I think that you get lost and unfortunately, you know, with the families having to work all the time, I think that they need other resources to get that, to put them on the right path and show them the right way. I was in, and I'm going to bring the Highway Patrol. We had what was called the Explorer program, and they started when they were 15 years old. And they got to do a lot of duties that are officers, but they were really great when they helped us with funerals or helped us with parties. They had their uniforms. They would go out and help on social events and help us with recruitment. It gave them a sense of ownership and pride to be part of something that is important. And I think young people need direction. And we all have to take accountability for our youth, because if you don't care, they're going to get lost. And we don't want the youth to get lost. Or unfortunately, a lot of youth, when they don't have support, they either go to drugs or gangs, and some of them unfortunately go to suicide. And that's what we have to avoid.
Thank you for Ernest. I like your answer, and Debhra as well.
So, Mike, we haven't heard from Rohin.
Sorry, I'm a bit under the weather, so I've been avoiding talking too much. I don't really have very much to ask right now.
How about
Okay.
you, Suzy or Chris?
Nothing yet. I kind of came in the middle of this, so I'm trying to catch up.
Suzy, any questions that you would like to have us talk about?
Sorry, I was driving. So, obviously at the Peace Center, we work with youth, we work with restorative justice, but that's not necessarily the focus of the CPC. But certainly it falls within, recommendations. I guess, I would ask both of you individually, what would be a recommendation in the time that you've been here in Albuquerque, since it sounds like both of you are transplants, that you would make on behalf of the Southeast CPC?
So if I can understand your question, you want to know what Debhra and I may think about possible formations or institutions or.
Right, part of our job is making recommendations to APD about changes that we see that we feel need to happen policy wise. And so I would ask, given your observations in the time that you've been here, what sorts of recommendations do you feel would be helpful?
As I mentioned before in the earlier Zoom meeting we had with the council, was that I think that it needs to be more proactive or prevention-minded initiatives, for lack of a better word, or projects. And that could be anything from community service to civic engagement to cultural exposures, anything that can help send a little, turn on a light in a child's mind about options and alternatives that they don't normally see every day. So any opportunity you give to provide exposure for cultural adventures, or through civic opportunities, or through doing community service, and working with a hospital or a food bank or something like that, that gives a chance for them to demonstrate as well as see how caring it makes a difference, how being open-minded makes a difference, how being curious can make a difference. So I think just those kind of avenues where they can have exposures to areas of use of areas of Albuquerque that they normally don't come in contact with. They have a routine of, from home to school, and in between that may be some trouble and problems. But if we can help them to be more through experiential type happenings, from gardening to bird watching, you name it, going to the zoo, those kind of things I think would help turn on a little light inside and help them become willing to explore and delve into the not so ordinary life experiences. So social skills, life skills learning can come through that, helping to learn how to make decisions, how to think about career choices. Those kind of things will follow from that, I feel. Or I've actually seen it happen.
Thank you.
Okay, with me, I agree with Ernest, more community involvement. But I would like to see more things like, and again, I'm talking about my agency and other agencies in California, they all participate in what's called Shop with a Cop. And again, that's where the explorers and maybe the youth groups could help with, is they go on an agency will take lead, and they get donations by asking other companies or don't, you know, whatever they can, or money donations within the agency. And they take under children who are not going to get Christmas toys, and they take them out. It's a big deal. They have entertainment. They take the kids in cars. They could go to a Target, or they can go someplace, and they take the kids, and each of the kids gets $100, and most of them will shop for their family. But it's nice because the kids and the families get to see the officers taking these children Christmas shopping and having that community. Another thing is, I think they need to do more exposure, as the transparency is one of my biggest issues. And I see that there's a couple of apps that they're working on. I saw they're trying to work on their times of service. So they are going in the right direction, but they do need to do more community. The family, the adoption thing they did at Christmas, Adopt a Family. They can ask the public for donations, that the APD wants to adopt a family, donate toys or donate clothes, or let the public help them help under the children or families that are not going to have food and not going to have toys and not going to have the vital things that they need. I would like to see more of that, where they're out there helping the public, but the public is helping them help people that need it. Food banks, all that kind of thing. So that's my recommendation. I would like to see more of that.
Yeah, that's actually good. I can tell you, I do community policing with APD weekly, and I've been doing it for probably about 5 years now. And they actually do the take the kids out. I've gone a couple of times with AFR and APD to JCPenney's at Christmas, where they take the kids shopping and then they take them bowling or whatever. So I know we do that here in the Southeast. I don't know if it's done department wide. And we've also gone, both Commander Yada and Commander Langwit are good about reaching out to the community. And we've gone and delivered food boxes. I know they deliver at Christmas and Thanksgiving. They get lists of families from the schools, and they do deliver those. We've been out with them when they've done that. So like I said, I know in Southeast we do that, but I can't speak to the other area commands.
And that's a
But
great thing, but you
definitely
don't
a
see that.
recommendation to do that community-wide would be a good thing.
Okay, because you don't, I didn't even know that I've lived this over a year, and you don't see that side of APD or any of that kind of thing, because you only see negative stuff.
Right.
It would
I'll
be
start
nice if we
posting
saw-
pictures on Twitter.
Oh,
We'll have them start doing more postings.
that would be great.
I'd like to add that there are various programs community-wide like that, but I think maybe we need to review what they're doing and make recommendations on refinement. For example, we do have the APD ambassadors to various demographics, and now that Angelo is focusing on youth, trying to get them engaged, and we've got 2 candidates here who are very interested in that, as well as Suzy, that maybe we can review what they're doing and then make some recommendations on how to refine those things. And one of the things, we've got bits and pieces working from various angles. Byron Powdrell, part of his job is to help us communicate APD's perspectives and initiatives with the community to support our efforts. And so maybe we can make a recommendation on some sort of series of I call it do good, feel good kinds of stories. And I'll leave it at that, that there are initiatives, and maybe we can find ways to improve them, refine them, and target them better. So one of the things that I talked to the commander about recently is culture change. And when we hear about culture change, we're hearing about police culture change. And I said, maybe we need to be re-envisioning it as a broader social cultural change. And do you have any thoughts on, again, what we can do, not just with youth, but in general with the community, to help them do some introspection about how they might contribute to some of the problems that they complain about?
I can go first if Ernest wants me to.
No, go ahead. Thank you, Debhra.
Okay. The culture change has to start within the department, and they do have to not look at the average citizen as the enemy. And I understand that they do have to be vigilant at all times, but sometimes I think they become so hyper vigilant that they forget that that citizen, that is the worst day of their life. And maybe they've done 1,000 calls with the same type of complaint. And I think you have to remember, and they, and they have their little world, and inside the little world is their own. And they have to get away from that, because that's the problem. We are not the enemy. They have to understand that people do want to be part and want to help them and want to make their communities better by being part of not the same culture, but to expand their beliefs that, okay, these people are here, it's a job security, because if we didn't need them, they wouldn't have jobs. And that's my issue is, and I've had dispatchers I've had to remind, because they get so doing the same thing and doing the same complaints and doing the same phone calls, but citizens, for that one particular day, they need to know when they can go to a police officer, they're going to get help, some kind of help, even some kind of resources. That citizen needs to know that they can get the assistance that they need from an agency that they can trust? I think that was the question, right?
I'd like, if Ernest wants to share something, and then I'll share, one of my thoughts, and I'll just share just one of them.
Well, I would piggyback on what Debhra said, and because I think she's right about we need to start. If we're talking about a culture change, I think it's an attitude of, generally speaking, I can't speak solely specifically of Albuquerque police, but there's a culture of militarization and occupying the community kind of mentality. And so it's like we are a colony of people that's being held in place, held in check by this overwhelming police force that is there to keep quote unquote law and order. But the whole thing of protect and serve needs to be more than just words and more deeds. And so how can we translate protect and serve into deeds? And it may be, in a sense of bringing together social engagement for community to interact with the police. It doesn't have to be a town hall meeting or a tribunal where we are airing complaints, but social, get to know you kind of thing, know about your Black background. I think the police officers need to get out of their cars more, get on the ground and talk with people and get to see what they have on their minds and get to see that they are human beings. And we get to see that cops are human beings as well. I've seen cops who also become coaches or classroom support aides or friends and leading the Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts or football teams, basketball teams. So having that break that stereotype by actually getting more immersed with everyday people in the community, I think would be a good step. When I think about town hall meetings, I think people would just be complaining, which may be righteously and legitimate, but we always get into that tug of war mentality. I don't think we would just be going in circles. So more social interactions, maybe there are, I don't want to say teas or coffee or breakfast with a police officer or things like that could be taking place and help to break that. But there is an entrenched culture based on the recruitment priorities, looking for people coming out of military service, and then putting on a lower level people who may have social service skills or health therapeutic kind of skills, or that can help de-escalate potential situations. So I think it's a long, protracted project. Won't happen overnight, but I think we can hit little steps, baby steps perhaps, and get moving things by and by.
One of the things I want to note is that with the policing council, we do projects like Coffee with the Cop at different locations, and we also do ride-alongs. You can work on a arrangement where you can do a ride-along with a police officer and go through their process of the day. So that gives you a close-up view of what's happening.
Okay.
You talked so long that I came up with 5 or 10 things to know. One of the things that I've noted in the discussions nationwide is that we, the community, are owed something by the police. And I agree, totally. But we, and you've touched on it, that we owe the police something, but we as community members owe one another something. So it's kind of a, if you make a logo out of it, it would be CPC, neighbors, police, and then it rotates who, it's a two-way street on all of these engagements. And I'll just give one of my big gripes is I watch people run red lights all the time. Why do you think police have such an overload and slow response on lower priority things when folks run red lights, they have accidents. We have 5 or 6 vehicles there, the PSAs and so forth, the EMTs, and suddenly, there's a shoplifting going on. So how can we support both our neighbors and our law enforcement by practicing things like traffic manners, lane changes, use your signals, don't run red lights, and so forth. And one of the things that I've noted is that people often gripe about, and you've both touched on it a bit, that they rant about things, but when I talk to them, I say, have you reported this to the police? Well, it's a waste of time. They never respond. Well, that's because somebody ran a red light, they crashed a car, killed somebody, and everybody's on. So that's sort of what I'm hoping, that the CPCs will broaden their engagement with the community and say there are things that you can do that not only make it safer for your neighbors and law enforcement, but also make it safer for yourself. So I'll leave it at that. I'd hoped we still have an easy quorum, 5 of 8 CPC members. And I don't want to drag this out a long time. So does anybody else have other things to ask about or to share? Or do we think that we can move ahead with, a vote from our council members about accepting, welcoming both Debhra and Ernest onto the council?
I agree.
I have nothing. Oh, my bad, Rock. You can go ahead.
I move that we take a vote.
I have nothing else to say, so I'll ask Chris and Rohan if they want to add anything.
Do we have a second?
I don't have
Second
anything.
Ron. I don't have anything to say, but mostly that what you guys have said needs to happen is happening in one sense or another, but maybe those good things need to be promoted better. And, that's kind of what our job is to help make sure that more people are involved and get to talk with the officer with a coffee or whatever, and are heard. Like, I think promoting the good things that are happening, and then trying to deal with the bad things that do happen, and then just building trust. Like, that's basically what needs to happen as far as everywhere around. Anyway, go ahead with the vote.
Rohin, you didn't have anything to add. So did we have a second on the vote?
I'll second.
All in favor, raise your hand. And I presume
I don't have my
Rohin,
camera on.
say again?
I don't have my camera on, but my hand is raised.
Okay, so it's unanimous with a quorum of 5 out of 8. And so welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to add one minor complication to this.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Mike, ouch.
Curveball.
Well, I'm not sure how many people know this, but apparently the Southeast Area Command is going to be split into 2 area commands. And
What?
the east-west boundary is going to be San Mateo. So
Oh,
let's
no.
see, if you are basing things on where you live, how many of you are east of San Mateo?
I am.
Ron, you're west of
No.
San Mateo.
No, I'm west. I live on Monte Vista, so I'm
Yeah, you're west of Girard, right?
yes.
Yeah, so you would fall into the western half of the former southeast.
So Mike, why are they splitting us up?
I think that they
Two
feel that
different
there's
sides of
a,
town.
say again?
It's two different sides of town, really, and San Mateo is a good split on it. I mean,
Yeah,
Nob Hill, everything on one side, and then us.
international
Yeah, there
zone.
were. I was
Yeah.
at the Loma Linda. They were trying to figure out the locations, how like everything going to switch around.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right in the
Some-
middle of Nob Hill.
So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know when it will be officially announced by Medina and Langwit. But I know that Commander Langwood, in talking with me just a few days ago, said that he's going to be discussing reorganization. So I'm not sure how that's going to affect us, when there might be a 7th area command and who would be eligible and interested in serving in one or the other. So I'll just leave that up in the air for you. And if I find out any more information, I'll get it to you. Okay.
Mike, you're making my head hurt. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
My God.
Yeah. And so at this point, we have a total of 10 out of the allotted 11 for the current Southeast CPC. We could add yet another. We have 3 other candidates, one of whom I've talked to extensively, but he is facing some challenges of his own right now. And so I haven't heard from him in about a week. And then 2 others haven't heard a thing from, despite numerous outreaches. But if we go from one Southeast CPC with 11 authorized total to 2, we'll be at 22 potential openings, and we have at present 10 members that might fall into one or the other. So I thought I'd add that. Any other things in closing?
Could you tell us about the schedule of upcoming meetings, and would they be virtual or in person?
The monthly meeting is on February
16th.
16th. Thank you. And currently that is going to be a hybrid meeting, so that you can attend by Zoom if you're unable to make it, or in person at the community center. I'm having some difficulty in getting the right kind of support from our CPC liaison, but I will send, well, you did get, all the rest of you have gotten a link to the Zoom meeting for the virtual portion for the 16th. And I'll send that to both you and both of you, Debhra and Ernest. Okay.
It's the 3rd Thursday of every month, just
Oh, okay.
in terms of
From
visualizing
6
it.
o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Well, 7:50, and then they start turning off the lights. But on top of that, I will once again reach out to the 10 members now and see if we can't have at least a quorum to discuss some of the issues that are upcoming. So we need to have election of officers. We do have past due minutes that I've been told several times that people will review them, but have not yet. We do have version 11 of the guidelines, which will involve yet another meeting of the Council of Chairs on the 24th, I believe, of February at the Police Academy. And I can't remember what the other topic was, but I'll remind you of all of those. I'll put the links to various resources that you can review. And we'll try to get a discussion so that we don't spend our time in the monthly meeting publicly talking about things that the public really probably doesn't care much about. Does that sound
Thank you,
okay?
Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
And when it
Thank you,
comes
guys.
to recommendations, try to think about like what our officers and how they would be involved in that, and not try to focus on maybe societal problems and whatnot, but maybe how the officers deal with them. Because I know that our officers get confused sometimes when we go off on tangents when it's not really directly involving what they can do. So just try to remember that. I know Commander Langley gets a little irked with us sometimes, but that we should always focus on how the officers can be part of that situation and what needs to change in that. And not that, I mean, not that we can change homelessness in itself, but maybe how they would respond to that situation, if that makes sense.
I'm a geeky kind of person. I'll
I
just say
do.
this real quickly. We've moved from the era of police conducting traffic and stops at with a whistle on an intersection. We moved from call boxes on the streets, and we've got all sorts of technologies that make it easier for them, safer for them, as well as the community. So that's where my focus is giving them the tools. And I won't belabor that right now. In fact, I'll probably just record something that you can watch if you want on the YouTube channel. Okay. So shall we
Perfect.
call it quits?
Yep.
Yep.
Thank
Welcome,
you,
welcome.
everyone.
Thank
And-
You're
you.
welcome.
Congratulations, Ernest.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Thank you.
night.
Congratulations.
Welcome, Ernest. Welcome, Debhra.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
See you on the 16th.
Okay. All righty. Here we go.
All right. Be good. Thank you.